Yes, sir. Let's get it. Okay, so going with the best of. Who would like to begin? I think last week we began with BG. So Zay, you fresh off the cat nap because Zay just told me just took a nice little nap. You fresh off the nap, man. So I think you should start this. Spark us, man. Get us rolling with a nice little run right now. Spark the team right now. Let's get going.
Yep. So best of. So we'll start off in the Eastern Conference. I think we'll start off with teams actually. So best of the week, I'm gonna have to give it to the Miami Heat in the Eastern Conference. Today, actually, they secured the first spot in the East over the Chicago Bulls. Hats off to Eric Spoelstra. He'll be representing the East in the All-Star game. And in general, they've been playing well relatively of late. Coming up, just balling. They're 9-2 in their division, 18-6 impressively at home. Coming up to the break on a 2-game win streak and 6-4 in their last 10. So, right now I think they're one of those teams that's piecing pieces together, and it's pretty cool to see because a lot of people might forget 2 years ago they were the runner-ups in the NBA. And that's something that's, people like,
nothing to sneeze at. Nothing to sneeze at, for sure. A lot of people,
they might forget about, like, hey, I was thinking about that conversation today. They said, well, name the last, off the top of your head without looking up, looking it up on the internet, like, name the last 5 runner-ups from any major sport. And a lot of people can't do it. So that's up to them. They're getting it done right now. For the Western Conference, I'm going with the Golden State Warriors. They've won 8 in a row. Coming to a halt at the All-Star break. Really chasing after the Suns, and eventually there's gonna be a neck and neck battle in the West. But even outside of them, the West they pushing the limit on teams that could really be contenders. And 40-13, they're 9-1 in their last 10, an impressive 25-4 record at home, and they're also 8-1 in their division as well. So they're getting it done. All-Star break, that's really the turning point for a lot of teams. And I feel like this team with Klay Thompson, getting his groove back slowly but surely. They're gonna
that
get
old
the
thing
back.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Okay, bet, man. Some good teams there. BG, what you got, man? Keep the run rolling, man. Hit a couple of tray balls for us.
No, you know what? I'm glad he went with those teams. They're balling out. They really are. But the reason why I'm glad is because those aren't the teams I'm going with.
Exactly.
it was tough this week, but in the East, I'm gonna go with the Toronto Raptors.
Raptors. That's my team too. I'm with you. Yeah. Drake, so we on the same page.
To me, Drake is the top guy in the game right now. He's been around the game for about 10 years. Drake is he's a Raptors fan. He's from Canada. So I'm gonna go with the Raptors, man. They've been balling. Fred VanVleet, he gets an All-Star nod. But they've won 5 straight games. They beat the Heat, the Hawks, they beat the Heat again, and the Bulls and the Hawks again. So that's 5 wins against some quality teams. They're really balling right now. So they don't have all their guys, but Siakam, Fred VanVleet, they just have a winning culture. They just don't have the all-star. No, VanVleet is an all-star. They don't have
they don't have that superstar level player.
Superstar caliber player to take them over
the Kawhi like they had a couple years ago.
I don't think they'll do damage in the playoffs, but I think they'll be a great playoff team. They'll give somebody a run for their money, make a great playoff series. Okay, so the West is tough, man. In the West, if you look at the standings in the West, I think the top 6 teams in the West all have like a 3-game winning streak or more. So I had to kind of dig a little deeper. I think Zay might have picked these guys last week, or you might have picked these guys last week. But I'm going to go with the Minnesota Timberwolves, man. they're on a 4-game winning streak. They've won 6 out of the last 8. They've won 7 out of the last 10, I believe, or 8 out of the last 11, something like that. And they have 2 wins over the Pistons, the last 2 wins, which is a lower level team, obviously.
That ain't saying much.
But they beat the Nuggets, they beat the Jazz. They had some tough games against the Suns and the Warriors that they lost. Beat the Trailblazers, beat the Nets. But they're keeping themselves in a great playoff contention spot. You know, Cat is playing super awesome right now. Anthony Edwards is, I mean, he's got such a dog mentality. He's playing at another level with a chip on his shoulder, and they're just playing well right now. They're keeping themselves in the hunt in the West. So they're my team of the week in the West.
All right, bet. Look, man, I like it. I like the energy you guys are coming with, man. I'm gonna go on the East. I'm not gonna belabor the point because me and BG have the same team for the East. We talking Toronto Raptors, man. Drake's team. You know what I mean? Like Jurassic Park. Like those boys are playing tough. You talked about Van Fleet. It's not Van Fleet, right? It's Van Vliet, actually. So I always screw that up. So he's balling out, right? I think he is the first undrafted player. So shout out to my Pistons here on this one. The first undrafted player since Big Ben Wallace for the Detroit Pistons to make an all-star team. So that is big credit to them. That's big credit to that franchise, man. Siakam, who's been balling, possible snub in the all-star as well. So we definitely got to talk about that. But Siakam, Van Vliet, and then another cat that I want to talk about with this squad, and he's going to be my player of the week as well in the East. We talking about Gary Trent Jr. He's been balling, y'all. I think he had 4 straight games of 30 points at one point over the last week and a half, shooting the tray ball like crazy. And, you know, we it's funny because I tweeted this and we talked about this last week. Second generation NBA players, he's one of them. His father, Gary Trent Sr., played for San Antonio. I think he played maybe for the Bucks. Wasn't a great player, but played a long time. He was an NBA veteran, and his son is now taking on that torch. And I think he's going to be a much better pro than what his father even was. So that the Raptors have been balling, man. That goes without saying. Again, I think they are winners of 5 or 6 straight games. So shout out to them. In the West, I'm going to go with 2 low-key teams. Some teams we never talk about. Number 1, I'm going to talk about the New Orleans Pelicans. Yes, the Pelicans. They are in their last 10 games. Look, they've only gone 5-5. But if you're talking about just last week in specific, they won what? They went 2-1 last week. They beat the Pistons. They beat the Nuggets in Denver, which was a huge win. So I just want to shout that team out, man, because you talking about Ingram, you talking about Valanciunas, not having Zion, like it is tough. Zion is their franchise player. When you don't have that franchise player, you can't expect too much, but they're hanging. I mean, they're staying afloat, man. Right now they are in the 11th spot with 21 wins, 32 losses. They're right behind, pretty much neck and neck with the Trailblazers for the 10th spot. So there's a small chance that the Pelicans can make the play-in. So that's saying a lot if you don't have your former number 1 pick playing the entire season. And I want to shout out Willie Green too, their head coach. Willie Green, Detroit legend, man. So shout out to you. And then also another team in the West that I want to shout out, Oklahoma City Thunder. I mean, honestly, they are like a development G League type of team. They don't have any star players unless you're talking SGA. But I think he's been out the last couple of games just with an ankle injury. So they've been hanging on by a thread, but getting the job done. Last week, they had wins over the Trailblazers. They had wins over the Mavericks. And then they came back around and smacked up on the Trailblazers again. So that just goes to show you that even with a young team, not a lot of superstars, playing in the West, which quote unquote, especially if you talk about Zay, that's a tougher conference of the two. Right, many believe that. So they playing tough in the West, not getting a lot of wins. But last week, man, they got some very important wins, and they really are starting to build some confidence. So I just want to shout out those young teams we never talk about, national media never talks about. But we got to make sure here on the Coach T NBA show with BG and Zay, we talk about teams like that, man. Let's talk about players. Zay, who you got for us?
But hey, before we go, let me. You talking about young teams? I want to shout out a younger team than you talked about. Let me shout out my Duke Blue Devils real quick.
Go get them.
smacking the Tar Heels. Smacking the Tar Heels. You talked about Gary Trent. Gary Trent is a Duke Blue Devil.
Yes.
He is, man.
Mm-hmm.
And that was man.
Huge win, Duke over UNC, and shout out to our head coach, Coach Mike Brown, who is a Tar Heel fan. So him and BG
in the Dean
he
Smith.
did get in. Yes, Mike Brown got engaged at the Dean Smith Dome or Center or Court. I don't know what it's called.
Whatever it is, all I know.
the house that Dean Smith built for sure. So hopefully you guys had a nice little friendly wager on that one, man. Maybe he wears some Duke gear next practice.
You know he's not confident enough to bet on
No. All right, let's talk about players. Zay, what you got for us?
Players. So
keep us hot, man. Keep the run going, bro. We feeding you the ball.
Hey, in the Eastern Conference, I'm giving it to my guy Darius Garland. Definitely 219 roots. I knew it was coming eventually. Claimed his first ever All-Star appearance in the state of Cleveland, or in the state of Ohio, in Cleveland, Ohio, where he plays for the Cavaliers. He's led the Cavaliers to a really solid start coming to the All-Star break. 33-21 last week. They came up. They were 2-1 on the week, and he posted games of 24, 19, and 13. And leading back into that, he had multiple 20-point games as well. So he's definitely been dishing the ball out. Had a double-double to add on that as well. And against Milwaukee, who's one of the better teams in the NBA, he had 19 points, 8 assists. So he's getting it done. On the year, he has 869 total points coming into this point of the season. So I know he got shaken up. He isn't going to be playing this first part of the week because of his back, but 19.8 points a game puts him top 25 in the league right now in scoring. And 8.2 assists a game puts him at 6th in the league. So he's definitely getting it done, and he's going to be exciting to watch in the All-Star game. Hats off to him. Represent
BG. Oh, I'm sorry, Zay. Yes, he is representing the 219, man. Shout out to the 219. I will say, the theme continues. I just learned that Darius Garland, his father played in the NBA. Yes. Okay, second generation player again, man.
Yes.
So I'm gonna blame my father, man. It's my father's fault that I'm.
Yeah, man. Pops wasn't getting enough jump shots up, man. He was getting some shots up, but they had nothing to do with the basketball.
And actually, one more stat. Speaking of, fathers and stuff, he playing a lot, like really good. Like some people don't realize. So in 54 games, his plus minus is plus 317 on the year.
We're talking about Garland, right?
Yes, Garland.
Yes,
Darius Garland. His plus minus is 317 on the year, and he does not turn the ball over. He's averaging in his last 10 games. He's averaging almost 12 assists and only 4 turnovers. So he's efficient at best. Efficient at best. So definitely getting it done for sure. And in the Western Conference, I'm going with Donovan Mitchell. Donovan Mitchell, he's been playing hard all year. Just came up with a big win this past Friday over the Brooklyn Nets, which we chose on the Coach T show. And he came up big in that game, 27, and shot perfect from the free throw line, shot 85% from 3 with 27.6 assists. And outside of that, a little hiccup in the Lakers game, but scored 31 against Denver. And, dating back to last week, had multiple big games, but 2-1 in this past week, week 16. So he's getting it done right before All-Star break. He's going to be looking at, a really productive second half of the season, averaging 25.5 points a game, and he will get it done.
BG?
All right, so in the West, Yeah, I mean, you look at the stats, you always got the same dudes at the top of the stat list putting up numbers. By the way, this isn't my guy of the week or anything, but Nikola Jokic is putting up the most proficient, or the player like efficient rating.
PER, yep.
PER, he's got the highest PER, the second highest PER ever, I think, or maybe the top PER ever. You're talking about over Wilt, over MJ. Like, his PER right now is 33 plus, man. I mean, he is balling. It's insane what this cat's doing. But in the West, I'm gonna go with Anthony Davis, man. Anthony Davis just came back not too long, a little bit more than a week ago. He came back. The Lakers need this guy, man. They really need him. They're struggling right now. But you talk about in the last week, going back to last Sunday, the January 30th, he had 27, 5 and 4 in a loss to Atlanta. February 2nd, he had 30, 15 and 2. February 3rd, he had 30, 17 and 2. And February 5th, he had 28, 17 and 3. So you're talking about 3 straight games with over 28 points and over 15 rebounds. I mean, that's
getting the job done, bro.
Happening, you know? Yeah. And that's what he needs to do, and that's what LA needs from him. If LA is going to be serious about making a title run, I mean, if LA is really going to be serious about competing in the playoffs, they need this guy. They need this guy. That they built the team for him. LeBron's supposed to be passing the torch, and AD needs to take that torch and run with it and stop, put an end to the naysayers about his injury and being injury prone and being a guy that's in street clothes all the time. I mean, he really needs to get on it this year and perform.
I think he made the All-75 team, bro.
He did make the All-75 team.
You talking All-75 team in the illustrious, I don't even know how long the NBA been around, 50, 60, 70 years, bro. 75 years. What am I talking about? That's why it's 75.
But this is
75, top 75 player, bro. Come on,
man. But here's the thing, like, a guy like him, I believe
be producing.
I believe he should have made it, but did he make it because of the hype on him? Is it overhyped, or is it because of what he's doing? And I feel like he's one of those guys that gets overhyped because he's, 7 foot, whatever, 7'1" or whatever he is, and he can do this and that, and we haven't seen a skill set like him and all that stuff, So I feel like he gets a little overhyped because of his physical freak of nature compared to what he's actually doing. I mean, before LeBron, he wasn't winning playoff games. So
no,
he's got to do his job. He's got to be the guy for the Lakers so that they can make a deep playoff run. For the East, I'm going to go with this is a little surprising to me when I was looking at the stats, but he's keeping his team right in playoff contention. They got a couple guys out. This is a shout out to our guy Mike Brown, and also a shout out to Zay here. I'm gonna go with Nikola Vucevic, man.
Vucci man.
He's balling for the Bulls lately, man. Yep. He's balling for the Bulls. You talk about last Sunday, he had 24, 14, and 3. February 1st, he had 18, 13, and 2. February 3rd, he had another 30-point game, 18 rebounds, 4 assists. February 4th, he had 36, 17, and 4. And February 6th, he had 23, 7, and 5. So I mean, he's balling. He's been facing a little bit of in and out this year throughout the lineup, being COVID and injury and stuff like that. But he's a great pickup for the Bulls in the offseason, and he's balling for them right now. And he's a big reason why they're sitting number 2, I believe, in the East. And a reason why they got a shot to make the playoff run. But he's gonna have to be big for them while Caruso and Lonzo Ball are out until they get healthy. It's got to be, he's got to be the presence inside. Yeah, it's DeRozan, it's Zach LaVine, and Vucevic, man, and he's got to be producing for this team to be a title contender.
Hey, speaking of the Bulls, man, and you guys didn't answer me on this. You guys are probably flaking me on the group chat. DirecTV, what's up, man? Like, why, if I'm quote unquote in the Chicagoland area, being here in Northwest Indiana, why don't I get the Chicago Bulls games? You guys don't have to answer for DirecTV, but DirecTV, somebody got to holler at me, man.
Hey, I feel like I get 98% of Chicago Bulls basketball games.
Bro, I get none of their games. But then my father-in-law, he's got AT&T U-verse. They get all their games. I don't get it.
Oh no, man. You might be
DirecTV stream. I love it, but hey.
They might have your Michigan.
Yeah, I got my Michigan credentials in there.
Because I definitely am able to see. The Bulls, they play on Chicago networks, so they play.
I don't know, man. I don't know, but Vucci, man, shout out to you, man. Vucevic for Chicago basketball team, Chicago Bulls. Other people know him, man. So that's what you have for the East. The West, you got Anthony Davis, BG, Garland. You have Zay in the East, and then Donovan Mitchell you have in the West. All right. So I talked about my guy in the East. Shout out Gary Trent Jr., another former Dookie, just ruling the NBA, man. There you go. I know BG likes that. Like I said, for that young man, talking about Gary Trent Jr., if I can pull this up, man. And this is not even just last week. I just want to shout out what he's been doing overall. Now, he's cooled off the last couple of games because he was just scorching hot. But, bro, he had runs of, we talking about, let me see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. He had 6 straight games of 30 points or more. He had 32 against Charlotte. He had 32 against Chicago basketball team. He had 33 against Miami Heat. He had 31 at Atlanta. Those last 3 games I just ran off, those were in the other team's buildings. And then he came back playing Miami at home. He had 33 points against them. And in all those games, bro, this is crazy. He had 5 threes, 6 threes, 5 threes, 9 made threes, 6 made threes. So, like, the 3 ball for him is potent, and he ain't just jacking them up and shooting a low percentage. I mean, some of these games, he's 50+% shooting the tray ball from behind the arc. So, shout out to him, man.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I was watching them the other night. I saw a stat. He either tied DeRozan or passed DeRozan for like the most 30-point games in a row.
Yep, he did. He passed DeRozan. I saw that same thing. Yes, he did. Yeah. So shout out Gary Trent Jr. Shout out to the Duke Blue Devils. And then for my Western player, and I had a couple guys in mind. And let me be honest with you guys, I kind of do this off the cuff. Like, I don't even really prep for the best of too much. But I just look at the stats, look at the teams, man, like most of us do right before the show. And the guys that I'm impressed by, the guys that I'm highlighting. A guy that I got to look at, man, and we talked about, or I talked about their team. And again, a low-key team nobody talks about, the Pelicans. I told you why. I thought they were playing really well the last week. They got another win tonight, another big win tonight, so that they're rolling. And a lot of that has to do with BI, another Duke Blue Devil. It's just Duke's week, I guess. I must be a Duke Blue Devil fan, man. Well, I don't know what's going on, but BI, Brandon Ingram, what you got to say, BG? But
hey, I know that. I tweeted this like 2 days ago. You know what? Like, I'm so sick and tired of people talking about how, Duke
don't have the superstars.
Duke players don't ever pan out in the NBA, all this and that. That's because, dude, when you go to Duke, you're put on such a pedestal that it's hard to pan out. Like, it's not like Duke is not developing NBA players. Like,
no, they got a bunch of NBA players.
Developing LeBron Jameses and Kobe Bryant's. Like, that's rare. That's a rare breed. But if you look in the NBA, Duke has role players, and I know that's such a negative connotation nowadays, but you need role players to win championships. Yeah, you do. Duke's got role players all over the league. You talk about
role players get paid too.
You talk about Gary Trent Jr. You talk about, Brandon Ingram isn't a role player. He's supposed to be like, a go-to guy, but the Pelicans aren't too hot.
Zion.
But, Grayson Allen.
Zion.
When
Luke Kennard.
JJ Redick was in the league. Yeah.
Redick.
I mean, they got role player Tyus Jones.
Tyus Jones
3 straight years leading the league in assists to turnover.
You love this stat.
I love that stat, man.
I ain't heard that since the 90s.
So, I mean, these dudes aren't the face of the league, but Duke is producing
Tatum,
quality role players. And I'm sorry, role players is not a negative connotation. It's not a negative word. You need role players to win championships, and Duke is producing guys that produce. That's what it is.
Bro, if I had I do have a son. If I end up having, and no pressure on my kids, I would rather my kid be a scientist, a lawyer, a doctor, or something like that, to be honest. But if my son ends up playing in the NBA and he goes on to play 15 years, not being a quote unquote superstar, but he's a role player for 15 years, it makes $150 million being a role player, I think he did pretty well being a role player. And Duke's got a bunch of those type of guys. And then, like you said, I mean, Jason Tatum is probably the biggest superstar, you would say? Quote unquote superstar right now? Zion or Tatum?
I mean, Kyrie.
We don't have to debate it. Kyrie. Yeah, Kyrie. Gosh, I even forget Kyrie was a Duke guy.
It's Kyrie
8 games Jason. There. Yeah, Kyrie, Tatum, Zion, probably their big
Zion
three.
When he's healthy, yeah.
Yep, exactly. All right, yeah. So, long story short, we were talking about BI because he is a Duke guy, but I mean, the last couple of games, just the last 2 games alone, and one of those was tonight. So I can't really count it into last week, but again, it's been showing what he's been doing. 33 points, 12 assists. In the game before that, he had 23 points and 12 assists again. So you know that he can score, but now BI has added the element of being able to assist and facilitate the basketball, which, I mean, you think about it, with his length, his ability to score the ball like he does from really all 3 levels, especially from the mid-range level, and being lanky and long enough to get to the basket, and then he can drop a dime on you. Come on now. That's a tough matchup. So shout out to Zion, man. Hopefully he's able to come back this season, because that 1-2 punch could be really deadly. And if they end up making the play-in, somebody got to face them boys in the playoffs. And I don't necessarily know if you get a healthy Ingram, you get a healthy Zion, and then another guy I love to shout out, Valanciunas, man. I love his game. Old school, back to the basket type of game, but he's so tough, man. He can still hit the 3 if you need him to. He can stretch it out a little bit there. He has free throws. He blocks shots. He grabs rebounds. I love Valanciunas, man. He's a low-key cat that people never talk about, but I love his game. If you can get those 3 rolling at the right time in the playoffs, maybe good night for somebody. Some of them higher seeds, you never know. So those are our teams and players of the week. So let me make sure I got that. I got BI for the Pelicans. I want to make sure I write this down. And then who else? I had Gary Trent Jr. Okay, Gary Trent Jr. All right, Raptors. Bet. All right.